This is the Power of OZmosis Podcast, powered by the vidwheel Creator Network. Hi, everyone. This is the Power of OZmosis video podcast, powered by vidwheel Creator Network. Today, I am joined by a good friend, someone who inspires me in our Western New York communities, and that is of Dan Buckmaster from Tresca Design. Danny, my brother, welcome to the Power of OZmosis.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you on. Thanks for pivoting to virtual. I know it's not ideal in terms of like that true like full through energy, but two passionate people like yourself and I'm sure passion will be exuded through the screen and through the speakers. So we're going to jump right into it though. And today for our listeners and watchers, basically a blueprint. It's all that how-to flavoring and the themes of how to execute something. And in this case, it's going to be unpacking a 20 to 25 minute conversation on the blueprint to, especially if you're a younger aspiring entrepreneur or an aspiring professional of whatever field, how to go about building your pathway, right? Getting your pathway aligned and set up so that you can start to actualize growth. And then start to see results. So it's not just exclusively for the younger demographic. It's for anyone who wants to maybe start something. So someone like me, who I've got 5-6 years on you, Dan, where I just started OZmosis not even a year ago. An episode like this, where we're about to extract some, golden nuggets from you, Dan, and your journeys with Tresca will be incredibly resonant and relevant, actionable to the listeners and watchers. So really a blueprint again on how to build a foundation of something that can then build, grow, and scale. And in this case, Tresca Design. And that Tresca, you are celebrating 4 years of doing business today. So let's start with a hearty congrats. And again, the welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. It's been 4 years that have gone very quickly, but have also taken 20 years. So don't know how to feel about it, except just grateful that we've been able to get here and excited for what the next 4 years are going to have.
You got greatness ahead, man. You've already manifested a ton of it. And so let's start with just introducing you, Dan, and what, and we'll say Tresca Design as well. Let's introduce both.
Sure. So I started my stay in Buffalo, I'd say, by coming to UB for my undergrad degree in mechanical and aerospace engineering. Right after that, I went and started my master's degree, also in mechanical engineering. So it's my educational background. In terms of work, Tresca was really my starting point. I started it the summer after my junior year in undergrad, really as an opportunity to freelance within the community, get connected, do a little bit of engineering here and there. And after about a year of doing that, I graduated, and I was fortunate enough to be supported by the Prentice Family Foundation's Prosperity Fellowship. So frankly, I didn't have to worry about paying my rent or tuition. So I was able to take that as an opportunity to say, okay, freelancing's kind of fun. Wasn't really my flavor. I wanted to build something. My entire dream was to have a team and build a team. And that was where I set my mindset to. And that was the formation of what is today Tresca Design. What Tresca is an engineering firm that specializes in mechanical engineering. We do engineering design, prototyping, turnkey manufacturing, supply chain solutions, basically the fundamentals of developing a product. That's what we focus on here. We're a small team. There's 10 of us now. We've been growing. And probably the best part about this job is seeing all of the different things that we're able to work on. We don't specialize in an industry. We don't specialize in a size of client. We're really just out there to go out and work on cool stuff. And when you have that kind of mentality, it makes your job a lot more fun.
Passion, in a place of passion and abundance versus fear and scarcity. It's something I talk about often. And it's an amazing thing when you're working with people you love to work with. Maybe you love them too, their family, their friends, their close, confidants, mentors, advisors, doing the things you love. And seeing that there's real-time impact in our communities and abroad, that there's functionality there's resonance with what the services and products you're providing. So some more kudos, man. As I'm listening to you, I can tell, I mean, it's so well polished. It's so well stated and intentionally, put out in terms of who Tresca is, your ethos, the mission, and who you are. And I was wondering, what is the other than the 4-year anniversary? So I don't want to take that away, but today's the 4-year anniversary here in late July 2021. This will release probably in the coming weeks. So for our listeners and watchers, are millions of them. I got to make sure I fit that in every show. Law of attraction, just like you willed what you wanted into existence. You did that through parts of the law of attraction, through visualization and energy and all that. So that said, what's the most memorable, kind of happening in these 4 years of Tresca? What comes to mind?
Geez. That's a loaded question, man. You're
anything. It can be
right now, but
yeah, it can be anything, man.
Yep. My personal motivator is building. That's why I got into engineering. That's why I played with Legos as a kid. That was my motivation starting Tresca. It wasn't really to, start a business per se. It was to build a team. And so one thing I'll never forget is the summer that I had hired my first full-time intern. I hadn't budgeted for it. I hadn't planned for it. I really was just looking around UB trying to find people. And I found one engineer who's still with us today, Nick Phillips, and he interviewed for an interview position, and it was really just a part-time position. We met at the Starbucks on campus. We talked for maybe 15, 20 minutes at most. And I walked away from there and I called my friend who was kind of advising me on finances at the time. And I said, I got to be honest, I don't really care what the spreadsheet says we should do. This is someone that I want as part of the team. He came in, and the impact he had led to a full-time position right at the end of the summer. And that was the catalyst that allowed me to start the team. So that fondest memory is the point where I offered him that full-time position, was able to turn around and say, okay, I have the start of a team now. And that was the first little micro accomplishment that I could celebrate. And that really helped me move forward.
A micro win, in the words of Duran K. Roberts, who's a pretty high up LinkedIn kind of sports voice influencer. A micro win, right? And what a it's vivid. I could feel it through the screen. I know we're not in person, but that I know you said it was loaded, but it was right there for you. It was pretty obvious. So that team building piece, this is how many years ago now, right in the beginnings?
Yeah, this was, 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah. So halfway through, but when you first started building that team out, going away, like you said, kind of shifting from consulting to the start to build, really fully build on like the deployment of a team. That's beautiful. And so you were early 20s at the time. And that's part of that blueprint that we talked about in the beginning for our listeners and watchers, that sure, if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, but you want to start something, right? Maybe you've been in that same job or a similar industry for 20 years, but there's something there that's laden with love and passion. And that would make you really happy to go out and try to actualize the mission of that dream. So what was it like as an early 20s something doing this, going about and building a business? And like you said, it was kind of happenstance where it started to happen. You didn't really set out intentionally in a way, and then it just started to kind of get a life of its own. So what was it like? Like, what do you remember with the peaks and the valleys and the kind of like the growing pains?
Sure. Well, scary, right? I mean, I think anyone that starts something like this is going to tell you that it's scary, but I'd trump that with excitement. I consider myself very fortunate that I was able to do what I've been able to do so far, right? I had advantages in terms of the network that I had started to build. I was able to get financial support, so I didn't have to worry about paying my bills. I could start a business that made $400 a month and not worry about supporting a family. And I was also fortunate that I was earning an engineering degree. So I knew that even if things went south, I had a little bit of a backup plan you never want to go to your backup plan, right? That scares you more than anything. But I had it, and that means something. And so, I'm very fortunate and thankful that I had that. But it was scary, definitely discouraging at times, especially in the field of engineering. Experience trumps basically everything. You need those gray hairs in a room. That's what everyone says. And so for me to be fresh out of school with a bachelor's degree, trying to win over, contracts that were even just a couple $100, it was a daunting task. And I definitely got a lot of looks. But what it forced me to be was innovative. I realized that I had a sales challenge that was a little bit unique to me, and I had to figure out different ways that I could show value besides just being the best price, right? I needed to show them that Tresca was going to be the best partner for them, and we had to beat out firms that had been around longer and had more experience. And yeah, it forced us to get creative.
Creativity, imagination, resilience, grit. These are the things that come to mind. And actually, one other thing too, like with that innovation and creativity, what were you doing? You were using this, and I intentionally wore this shirt today. So congrats again on 4 years. You've thought big and you've gone far, and you only go further with, again, with just taking advantage of using your mind and letting that then point you in the right direction. When you build those muscles, right, Danny, of the mental muscles, if you will, the skills that you can be in your 20s, 30s, 40s. I just was listening to Andy Frisella with Ben Newman. Ben Newman is a mental performance conditioning coach. He's one of the best. And this man said, I'm 42 and I'm considered one of the best in my field. But guess how old my coach is? He's 31. He's 11, maybe even 12, going on 12 years younger than this man, Ben, who's an accomplished performance coach. And he himself on the podcast said to Andy, said that dude who's 31 is way further, way more advanced than I am because of his unique life experiences. There are things that happen to us, Dan, and I know this is the case for you, and it's certainly for me, that accelerate your growth. They accelerate your mind. They accelerate your ability to respond and critically think. So kudos. I wanted to ask you, I had another follow on to that kind of that, the peaks and valleys, right? So you said excitement trumps the fear. What would you say to our listeners right now that might be back and forth on, I want to start it. This might be the opportunity. This might be the right time, but I'm not sure. I'm kind of nervous. Like, imagine, someone comes to you and asks that question. What do you say to them?
Well, this is free advice, so it's worth what you pay for it, right? But in my opinion, perfection is a very easy way to meet your downfall. What I mean by that, everyone says, if you strive for perfection, you'll never get to it. I think that's part true, part untrue. But what I mean by that is your expectation. If you expect perfection, you're setting yourself up for a lot of disappointment, right? And that's something I'm still learning to this day. When you're on a journey like this, you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. And I'm not saying anything new, but it's different when you get to experience it, right? When you leave work on a Tuesday having the best day you've had in months, whether it was because of sales or you had a great conversation or you finished a big project, and then the next day you walk into a dumpster fire, right? That's going to happen. And if you consistently expect perfection and you never achieve it, you're just going to wear yourself out emotionally. So you have to be able to recognize those micro wins and understand today was a great day. I'm going to celebrate that today was a great day. I have a lot to be thankful for, but I'm not expecting tomorrow to be perfect. I come to work every day really just counting on the fact that I'm going to fail at least once. And a lot of people take that as negative, or they take it as a lack of self-confidence. It's being realistic, because then what happens is when I inevitably fail that day, I'm going to say, well, yeah, that was the one. Okay, pick up the pieces, learn from it, try not to do that one again. And hey, best case, if I pull off a perfect game for a day and I don't fail, then I go home even more amped up. So that's something that I see is a lot of people will start a business, no matter the age, no matter the experience, even if it's not their first business. They'll go in and they'll expect, okay, this needs to be done by this date. This has to go perfectly. It won't. don't count on it to. And more importantly, don't beat yourself up when it doesn't. Try to learn, because learning is the only way that you're going to be able to push yourself forward, and failure is the best opportunity to learn.
I'm learning from you right now, brother, and I'm grateful for it. And speaking of gratitude, you mentioned it earlier about being fortunate, and then also just being grateful for the day being a win, if you will. And so that's something that is certainly evident in your ethos, your life ethos, the businesses of, in terms of Tresca, and that gratitude, man, being grateful, being intentional, being present. These are all things that are part of a resilient human, and you certainly are resilient. And so is your business. And I know you said in your thank you video for your 4-year that, to weather the storms from the pandemic, you wouldn't have gotten through it without the community, without your relationship, without your advisors, without your mentors. So that brings us to our next stop. Let's talk about the importance of mentorship in your journey to getting to today. Mentorship. Tell me more about what your thoughts are on that and how you've been able to amass. I know there's a little pause there. How you were able to amass, your network of mentors and advisors.
I mean, mentorship is my lifeline, quite frankly, right? When I'm stuck, even when things are going well and I just need a reality check, mentorship. The only reason that, quite honestly, the single reason that I'm able to do what I've been able to do so far is because I'm constantly learning. And I don't approach people from a sales perspective. I approach people from a learning perspective. My first summer when I moved into the incubator at Baird, and it was still just myself, I spent those first 3 months not actually going after sales. I spent those first 3 months trying to get connected with people and learn from people. I'd go out to lunch 3, 4, 5 times a week with anyone and everyone I could get connected with in this community that would just listen to me. Even if they had nothing to do with me, they wouldn't be a future client. I just wanted to listen to people that had done this or were a part of a startup. And at the end of every single meeting, I would ask them for 2, 3 more introductions. And that's how I started to build it. One thing that I would say is approaching someone with a learning first mentality is much more likely to get a positive response based on, my track record with introductions. I think anyone that's on LinkedIn gets tons of messages every week saying, hey, let's meet. Hey, I want to learn about you. And unfortunately, so many of those are someone where they'll hear your story for 60 seconds and then spend the other 59 minutes telling you about how they want to manage your finances for you, right? Or something like that.
It's powerful right there. Oh,
right. But when the reality is, when you meet with someone just saying, hey, John, I see what you're doing. I want to learn. This is what I'm trying to do. People, I'd say most people, especially in this community in Western New York, are good people. They want to help. So when you're approaching saying, hey, maybe we can do business down the road, I don't know, but you are someone that inspires me and I want to learn from you, that's powerful. That gets people in the door.
So you've given a couple blueprints within this overall blueprint conversation. Again, we're here, two young people in parallel universes doing, completely different things, but with foundations of community, mentorship, relationships, entrepreneurship, passion, resilience, right? You just gave a blueprint right there. Let's rewind. So starting with, you said, quote, and I'm going to write this down after because I've got a big mentorship thing I'm working on with my alma mater right now, a program, but mentorship is my lifeline. And so all of our listeners and watchers, I will sit here with every ounce of my being and say that is absolutely how I operate as well. And that when I've got things that I've got to do that I'm learning from, I've only seen 30 years of the movie of life, right? That's a John Gaviganism. Shout out to JG. Who do I call? I call my people. I'll shout out some names and feel free to, Dan. I got Chuck Collard, Kevin Schmidley, Gavigan himself, John Como, Chef Bobby Anderson, Valentino Dixon, and the list goes on and on. Jess Edwards, Pat Whalen, the list goes on and on. Hadar Borden, a mutual of ours. And so when you first it starts with a relationship, right? Like the mentorship is going to be pretty much a byproduct of first building a solid relationship, right? And you've outlined how to do that. You come with a learn first, and we hear Techstars with the give first. Something that I've tried to come up with, which is value first, right? In any relationship, you should always strive to deliver some form of value. It doesn't have to be like hey, here's a gift card, or hey, I'll buy your coffee. It's something that is going to be valuable to the person on the other side of the conversation. So, but you came out with learn first. So yeah, it's so powerful. I was going to recap it and I ranted enough. So I just want to say thanks, because, what you said there about going and learning and listening and using your two ears and one mouth. And then at the end, after having a great experience with that person, so long as it was great, you'd say, hey, can I get two more? And that person then, because they spoke the most, which I hate to say, but our two favorite things, right? Our favorite word is our name, and our favorite word to use is I, whether we like it or not. It's just who we are as humans. And, when you give a person 59 minutes of stage time to talk about what they do so that you could sit there and you could just take notes, that you're dialed in, you're in control, and you're in control of your own destiny by getting all that information. So, wow.
So one interesting thing, and I don't know if you've realized this as well, because I know even just what you're saying now that you're big into mentorship. One thing I learned very early on is that I would always get much more concrete takeaways, life lessons, business lessons, everything, when I asked people what they wish they did differently or what went wrong versus asking them what they did well, right? Because I would always sit down and say, what got you to this success? And they'd mention a couple things, and then I'd say, okay, what do you wish you knew when you were just starting? And then you say, oh, geez, spend your money to get your taxes done right? Like all those little tidbits that are actionable where I can walk away saying, okay, $500 to H&R Block, that's going to make a difference. Got it. All of those little things all came from what shouldn't I do? What do you wish was different? Did you see the same thing?
That's so well said, Dan. And I love that because it fast tracks it, right? You hope that the person you're identifying as potential mentorship material or advisement material are folks who have, learned from mistakes, and then they've actioned against the awareness that the mistake creates, right? You make a mistake. Now you've got awareness on this mistake and how you've arrived to this issue. And then it's like, well, let's do a retro. What do we do wrong to get here? And then let's do something differently to not have that happen again. So when you ask someone, what would you do differently? What do you wish you could take back or change or tweak? That is honestly, man, I'll be candid. It may come up organically in my conversations just because, one thing that's part of that question is candor and courage to ask someone, especially if they're an executive, you're in your 20s, 30s, and, who am I to be asking this 55-year-old multi-million-dollar executive this question about what they would do wrong? So to have that courage first and the insight to do it, I mean, that's fantastic. So organically, it's maybe come up, but I can't say concretely, Dan, that I've went into a conversation. But guess what? Into my next conversations, I'm gonna be just like our millions of listeners.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because I've honestly never even thought of it like that because it fit with my mission. I was very transparent with people saying, hey, let me buy you lunch, let me buy you coffee. I want to learn. I have no clue what I'm doing. I graduated with an engineering degree, never even took an accounting class. I had no clue what I was doing and how to build a business, run a business. And when you have that mentality, it's a lot easier to say like, hey, John, you've obviously done incredible things. What would you tell yourself when you were at, year 0.5? What do you wish you know? Where did you mess up? And it's a lot less of like hey, tell me all your weaknesses, but it's more of a, hey, how can I learn the most efficiently right now? And it's amazing when you talk with someone that is successful, that has achieved that, how willing they are to talk about their failures, because to get to that level of success, you have to go through those failures. And everyone knows that.
100%. And in the words of Naja Bolden, who has frequented some of the judging that I know you've done or the advisement you've done with UB, Blackstone Launchpad, again, shout out to Hadar, but Naja Bolden, who's become a friend of mine through those programs, would say, become a failure fanatic. Right.
Yep.
And that's the only way you learn. And so I love how in a sense, it's not that it's massaging the question. It's just that it's asking in a way that's a bit more, I guess, humane, or maybe it's not the word humane, but proper, appropriate. Instead of saying like, yeah, exactly. What are your weaknesses? It's more of a, hey, tell me more about this. And yes, someone like you, Dan, I mean, here you are, in your mid-20s, and you're sharing these insights. This is what all the greats have. All of the greats, or the greats in the making, want to share that insight. They want others to avoid something that maybe they've done. It's something that Tim Grover, the book Winning, he talks about. He was the kind of like a holistic coach, mind and body, for a lot of the greatest ever NBA basketball players, of course, MJ, Kobe. And the one thing that he says about all those guys is that the greats, they want to share and overshare sometimes, even where they want others, right? They, like, MJ was mentored by Magic Johnson. So then MJ mentored Kobe, and then Kobe I got goosebumps. I'm going to show that. Can you see? I don't know if you can. Kobe mentored LeBron James, right? The greats want others to manifest their greatness, so that it can continue to pass on, right? So what I wanted to hear more from you too on, because I know we share this, is we're both mentors. We're both still early on in our movies of life, our careers. I'd like to hear more about how you've gotten yourself into mentoring, because that's how we reconnected. I remember hearing your name a couple times. We had meant to connect. I dropped the ball, candidly. And then I heard your name a couple times. I was like, oh, I got to reach out to DB, Danny over there, and see how he's been. So I'd be curious to hear you, as someone who both receives a lot of mentorship like me, but also provides a lot of mentorship like me as well. So what's that like for you?
It's humbling, honestly. I think it's a privilege that I'm able to share things with people. And, I think it's important to keep that humility. I try to open every session, every conversation of mentorship saying, hey, listen, I am very far from figuring it out. On the scale of middle school, I feel like I'm probably between first and second grade right now. But you know what? In pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade, you learn a lot. And I know that I have things I've learned, experiences I can share that can help. I don't take mentorship from the position of, I'm going to take this person and make them the next Elon Musk or the next Jeff Bezos. What I do is I say, okay, what have I learned that's applicable to this person's situation or their goals that I can share? And that's how I approach my mentorship, because I don't know everything. I can't tell someone how to make their business successful, but I can share things that hopefully people can take away from. And in the worst case, if I share 10 things and they can take away one out of those 10 things and actually put it into practice, they have one more thing, and generally they got a free coffee out of it. So
that's really well said, man. Really well said. So yeah, so let's do a mini recap, because we're coming up on time, and I wanted to do two more quick things. One that's a bit kind of perfunctory operational, but then also one that I think will get you pretty juiced in conclusion here. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about, again, like just how to get that ball rolling, and how to almost, what one would say, feel the fear and do it anyway. I really enjoyed those ruminations, Dan, and hearing from you. So thanks again. And then, the relationships, the connectivity, the way that you've approached finding mentors and advisors. And then also then just now giving back is your own form of a mentor, because, the 18, 19, 20 somethings of the world need to hear that from those that are a bit further ahead of them. And especially someone like yourself, who's in a very unique circumstance where you've got a team, right? Shout out to Kamal Patel. Kamal's taken the Western New York community, continues to, by storm. Again, at a tender age, both of you, I'll finish with this, the both of you, and I've said this to Kamal too many times now, you're both a living and breathing embodiment, testament to, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And that's funny enough with these guys at Limitless Minds, that's like their shtick. They're like a mindset company, and they coach some of the world's elite athletes, a lot of the younger ones too. So anyway, go ahead.
I just want to make one quick comment there.
Let's go.
Yeah. You say if you're good enough. And, I think this can be taken the wrong way, but I'm not good enough, because if I was good enough, I could do all this myself. the reason I've gotten this far is because of the people that have pushed me, lifted me, carried me, knocked me down, motivated me. I mean, those are the reason that I got here, right? Tresca
Mm.
is absolutely nothing if I don't have an amazing team behind me, right? I'm fortunate enough to direct the circus, so to speak, and that's a ton of fun. But that's the core motivator for me, is all these people around me that want me to succeed, that want Tresca to grow into something amazing. And you know, it's not just me. And part of the blueprint is, I think, accepting that it's not just you. Yes,
Mm.
you do need to have core capabilities. You do need to have a certain level of expertise in whatever you're going after, but don't underestimate the power of the people that can lift you up and carry you.
Incredibly well said. And yeah, just additive there. It's not me, it's we. And like any good leader, they bring in people that are smarter than them or whatever you want to, some people always say, oh, I'm the dumbest person in the room. I bring the smart
Yep.
people and let them do the work. That to me is a little overkill. I think it's that you're a master orchestrator or a conductor of sorts, right? That just knows who needs to be in what role, rowing in the right direction, fulfilling their passions, their true skills, right? The right seats, the right people, something that traction over here talks about. And so when I was referring to that in that quote, that's again, Trevor Moawad, the gentleman who this shirt's from. If you're good enough, you're old enough is for a company, it's for a person, it's for a team, right? Even like a sporting team, which is what these guys here at Limitless Minds focus a lot on, is sports. It's a lot of these sporting teams and these professional leagues, these guys, the average age is 23, 24, 25. And just because that's that arbitrary, somewhat arbitrary number is there does not mean that they can't actualize greatness. It's just a number of times. So yeah. So just furthering kind of the buttressing that is that if you're good enough, you're old enough, and don't let, like you said, we need gray hairs in the room. I've been subject to that as well, too many times to count. And that was one of the major drivers of me saying, I'm going to go do my own thing because I believe in myself and I believe in my network and I believe in the work that I'm trying to do in the community, that I don't need to have the 42 years old and gray in my hair to say, okay, this guy can sit at the table now. That's not it. If you've got something of value, dial it in and get it deployed. So really quickly, operationally. So thanks again for that. Where can we find Tresca? Where can we find you? How do we connect? And whatever you'll say, I already have an idea, will be in the show notes. So where can we find you though? How do we connect?
Totally. So our offices are in the Tri-Main building here. Best place to connect with me is LinkedIn. Company is a LinkedIn, Tresca Design. You can find myself, Dan Buckmaster, on LinkedIn. That is definitely the best way to get in touch with me because I'm on there constantly, same as you are. But yeah, anything from mentoring all the way to a project we can help on, we're here for it and never opposed to a coffee or a lunch.
Let's go. Well said. It'll be in the show notes. And then last and certainly not least, this is one of those big and loaded, I guess, questions. I've been ending these my shows with this question. So my question to you is, and this is something that I hashtag all the time, is what keeps you going, Dan? What keeps you going?
What keeps me going is building. The fact that I'm able to continue to build and have my passion, and that I know that I'm not done yet. I'm starting to get a lot of questions of, okay, well, when is Tresca going to be enough? When is it going to grow enough? When are you going to move on to something else? And I don't have an answer to that, because the reason that this is my dream job, and by the way, I think I'm probably one of the luckiest people in the world to be 25 years old and have my dream job. But the reason that this is my dream job isn't because it's always good, right? I have stressful days, I have terrible days, but it's because I'm constantly learning. And I know that every day I come to work, I'm going to learn something new. So to answer the question of when I'm going to be done with Tresca, it's when I feel like I'm stopping learning, when I'm not learning here anymore, when I'm not growing anymore. And again, I think I'm probably about graduating first grade. So I got a long way to go and a long time to learn.
Well said. Keep growing to keep going. Building, man. Yeah, you said that a lot today. It's certainly a theme and top of mind. And your purpose. You're here to build things. You're here to build communities by building things, whatever those things are. So big kudos and gratitude. And so in conclusion, as always, much thanks to my friends at vidwheel Creator Network for the kit, the support, everything. Neil, Carroll, and team, you guys are rock stars, or like I call it, human all-stars. So thanks again. And thanks to you, Dan, for joining and for dropping all this wisdom on our listeners and watchers. And of course, our listeners and watchers for checking this out. And we'll look to keep this thing rolling, keep manifesting greatness, and of course, to keep going. So thanks again, Danny, for being here, brother.
No problem. Thanks so much for having me.
Congrats again on 4 years. Many more to come.
Appreciate it.
Take care.